Erosion's the first part of the process, and that carries sediment. It also carries pollutants and nutrients into our streams. So those people who like going and doing wild swimming or on your bushwalks, being able to walk through creeks and have confidence that there's not pollutants in that creek. If we can lock sediment up where it starts, that's the most effective way of controlling this. So if you come over here, I'll show you each of the bits we're going to use today. You'll notice that everything we build with is organic, okay? Because what we don't want to leave is remnants of plastics and synthetics in the landscape. So our sandbags are Hessian sandbags, they're not plastic sandbags. So when we use them, they'll rot down after they've done their job. This one here is a thing we call jute mesh. So it's like a cargo net. This is a really effective erosion control material, because when that's pinned into the ground, in each of those squares it'll capture sediment and seed, and you'll be able to get an area that's bare with no grass growing on it, and you'll be able to get grass growing through it fairly effectively. So we'll use a bit of that today and we'll explain how that goes. The next one you see a lot around is coir logs. Now again, this is an organic material that we use to make essentially like little dams. So the great thing about this is you can bend it into whatever shape you like. So typically we'll make horseshoe shapes like this, and the idea being that the water is flowing down the slope, carrying its sediment, it enters into here and then it pulls water, and then the sediment drops out here. So we can store the sediment and don't allow it to go into the streams. This thing over here that looks like carpet underlay, we'll put that over the ground where we want to suppress weeds, hold lots of soil in place, and then we'll often put mulch on top of it as well. But you'll notice that there's a whole lot of holes all the way through it. And what they are, we get it pre-slitted so that you can actually plant through it. Now, the big mistake a lot of people when they buy this is they buy the unslitted variety, and then you've got to hand cut every hole, and it's quite a job.
It's pretty hard to cut with a knife.
Yeah. So the idea being that when you come back on another day and you're planting, all your holes are preset for you, okay? We're going to use a sledgehammer and a stake. Now, typically, the main accident happens with these, and so we've always got to be thinking about our safety when we're working. Typically what will happen is we'll trust each other, and I'll go, Dave, I'll hold the stake while you hammer. Now, what then happens is Dave comes along with the sledgehammer, and I'm going, I've got it covered, Dave, for you, and my hands are like this. So what's some of the possible things that may go wrong? Yep, or I decide I'm not paying attention because I'm having a chat to someone on the side and I've got my thumb here. All these things are risks. So I'm just gonna get you to tap that and put it in the ground. So we're not. Okay, that'll do.
And the other big thing is eye protection.
Yep.
In case the splinter happens to come flying off as well.
So this is a trust thing. I still trust Dave because I've worked with him for 20 years, but I'm not going to trust him with my hands. So what we'll typically do is we'll do that, which is set our hands out of the equation. I can still work with Dave, and at the end of the workday I'm still friends with Dave because he hasn't broken my hands. So when you're working, always think about your safety, and so everything we'll do, we'll talk through anything that we need to think about. But this is the best way to stay friends when you're hammering stakes in together. Okay, so it's a very simple technique. Dave will show you a few other tricks about installing stuff.
Yeah, so like there's the pins that if we're putting in the jute mat or the jute netting, use the pins to hold it in place. If you're doing that, like especially with the netting.
And I'll spread that out a bit for you.
So if you are doing any of the pinning, you want to grab a fair few of the cords to put into put the pin through. And then as you're putting it in the ground, you want to push them together. So that way the pins are trying to push out. So they actually grab onto the ground a lot better. Because if you just push your pin straight in like that, it just comes straight back out. Or if you're pushing them together, and knock them in with a hammer, the force is actually pushing out and locks it in the ground a lot better.
And that's a very simple thing, but if you've got a high risk slope that you've just coated, you don't want it coming apart.
Installing the coir rolls like these. Sometimes we'll use stakes to put them in the ground. Other times we'll use the pins. So if you're doing that, again, we just grab a few of the cords. So that way you've got multiple connections with it. And then again, pinch them together, and then you nail them into the ground with a hammer.
And so that's a very easy structure to build to protect the environment from sediment loss. If you're at home, you might be building a shed or a garage or something. You may want to put some simple sediment controls around. These sort of systems are very easy to install. You could put one of these on a slope, plant your tree in it, and then you've got water being stored around it and going into the root zone of the trees. All of these organics absorb water and store water. So you're going to hear us, whenever you meet me and Dave, you'll hear us talking about water all the time. So how we put water back in the ground where it's useful to plant life and less destructive to downstream systems. So we don't want big overland flows and stormwater running across the landscape. We want it to go back into the grounds and be used for plant growth or other purposes. And one last thing, who had the Three Little Pigs story read to them when they were kids? Okay, believe it or not, this principle works a little bit on the Three Little Pigs thing. Mulch is if we've got something that's fairly easy to hold and it's fairly flat and we don't have a lot of water flowing over it, we use mulch. Once we start to get a bit of energy, we'll start to use the jute mesh. And if we've got very unstable soils, we'll use the jute mat. So it's how sort of hard the big bad wolf blows is what materials we use. Now when you come back and we build other structures, if there's big overland flows, we look at using rock. So and the bigger the flow, the bigger the rock. And if we've got very large rocks, we'll get an excavator in to move the rock. So we're sprinkling, so we still can see the grass through it, okay? That'll retain moisture and get the grass growing faster. So what I'll need you to do is just work over this zone here in that way, okay? So we don't want a big pile, we just need enough to retain the moisture.
Oh no.
Okay, now. So if you get yourself a floor, if you do the same after you get down the way, so come over here, and that's exactly right. That's the level we want. So anywhere you see ground soil, it needs to get covered.
So we're using this as our bottom line. Yeah, it'll sort of slow the water down. Coming down the hill, it'll hit that. It'll start pooling a bit here, so it'll break down the velocity as well. It also gives the mowers and that a line to work to. Put one here, and then one about there.
Okay.
So it's that thing again of come through a few of these bits of cord, just weave it through. Then once you get it to the ground, just pinch them together. Then use your hammer, watch your hand. And that's it.
Yeah.
And we can do both sides as well. One here, one here.
Yeah.
And just stagger them like that. There you go.
So what the boys are doing here is they're doing a light mulch over grass so that we're covering all the eroding soils so we don't get sheet erosion coming off this slope. You can do this sort of thing at home. You can also use bulk compost if you can go to your local landscaping supply, get something like rotted down cow manure or something like that. You can put that onto your lawn and rake it through. We prefer to use an organic material rather than a highly fertilised, like a top dressing. So this sort of stuff works well in bushland settings. So this is the first example of just how to control sheet erosion and losing that sediment from that. G'Ty, if you can we'll stretch it so we're pulling on each end. That's good, and I'll turn it over one more time so we line it up properly. Okay, now you step backwards so we get a bit of tightness in it.
So where we use it
Okay, so what happens with this is it gets put down on the ground. Now the beauty of this is, if we've got a plant underneath this that we want protected, and I'll pretend this one's actually an important plant, you can do this. So you pull the plant through and you can pin around it. So if you've got a native plant that you want to protect, you can do that. Okay, so we bring one, put it in there, put the next one there, and the next one there. And if they're not long enough to fit it, we'll overlap some, okay? Okay, just line it up at the end, please, Justin. Okay, that's good. Now, when we pin the first one in, we'll stretch it a little bit as well, okay? So this is jute mesh, okay? This is what you use if you want grass to grow through the mesh.
So again, you want to start off at your ends. So you want to start at this end and you want to start at this end. So again, you just want to grab a few other different lines. Again, push your pins together and don't hit your hand.
So take your time. It's more about technique than strength. Don't mistake this as a, like you're starring in the latest movie with Thor in it. So you don't have to come in for a running swing. It's all about your technique, okay? And you want them about 2 hand spans apart, okay?
Yeah, so you go up your sides. The same again, grab a few cords. Every couple of meters, 2-3 meters along you can do. If we're doing lines of mesh, you'll have your next biscuit come down and you'll cross them over and put one on top of the other and then pin like that line together.
Okay.
So yeah, once you pull it up, and then you can also do a middle line.
You can keep working on this slope. What will happen is it'll turn to grass eventually, which is one way of stopping erosion. The other thing is we're getting greater amounts of carbon and organic matter into the soil as well, which is good through this. So give that a little flatten out if you can for me, mate. Very good. That's perfect.
Wow.
Yeah, so we need to break him up. And then we sprinkle that out. Okay, that's perfect. Can I have one bit? Yep, so you do one, so no, that's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, yep.
You done?
Yeah.
More coming.
I know, but I'm done.
But the other thing, when we put this sort of material down, the other thing that can happen is people will tend to trip over it. So we'll get a nice tight edge on the top. So once we've got the bottom pinned in, we'll bring that up.